with us from the very beginning. She is in the Aurora board. She is a friend and colleague of Marg Hatchie's. So she does all the, whenever Marg has an event in Toronto, she does the photography. Her company is called Radically Creative. Yeah, is that right? Did I get it right? Oh, can't hear you. But yeah, so got that part. Yes, great. And Sabrina is our BMO rep, although she's off right now for a bit. She is with Crystal in Crystal's group. And so I didn't realize she had two little girls, so she'll have to tell us about that. Sabrina, are you on now? Hi, Sabrina. So are your two little girls, how old are they, Sabrina? Oh, can't hear you. You have to unmute.
My oldest, Sophia, is 11, and my youngest, Isabella, is 8.
Ah, fantastic. And so Sabrina is in Crystal's group, and Susan Candelaf, I can't remember what group you're in, Susan. Which group is she in, Alicia?
Just one moment.
Yeah, doesn't matter. We're going to start because it's 9:05, and I want to. And Brandy is in Kamloops. Wonderful. So I'm really pleased. Thank you all for participating in today's webinar session with Susan Kabani, who is a CEO of an organization called Ugenie. And anyone who is a member of GroYourBiz, both GroYourBiz and Ugenie formed a partnership a few years ago. And I'm so pleased that more people are starting to use it. And so we always say that it's GroYourBiz's app that's powered by Ugenie. And it really does, it's an organization, I'll let Susan talk about it a little bit more, but it's a digital platform that allows organizations that have, and associations that have members to connect with each other. And one of the areas that GroYourBiz is still working on, and more dramatically now than ever before, is to make sure that women who are part of GroYourBiz can make global connections. So we want to, if anything comes out of this, I want you to understand the importance of reaching out, making sure you're on Ugenie, making sure you register on Ugenie, and make sure you start asking your questions, because you never know who can offer you advice or some kind of answer to the question that you might be focusing on, or the business challenge. But there's more to Susan than just being the CEO and founder of Ugenie. She's also the co-chair and developer of GroYourBiz in London, UK, although I'm sure they're going virtual and might expand beyond just London. And her background is very intriguing because she actually graduated from Northwestern University in the States. And after university, she spent 2 years as a paralegal, and then attended the New York law firm, did the 2 years in New York law firm before attending the Tulane University Law School. And that's a very prestigious law school, of course. But the interesting thing about Susan is that she actually spent being a legal intern for a national football league at the London office. And I thought that was I'm sure that must have been very interesting, Susan, being a single woman in a national football league. And so she worked with contracts for sponsors, looking at commercial pitches and getting European sponsors. But then she also then moved to a laser manufacturing process in London, who wanted to expand in the US market. So she's got this broad spectrum from educational, business, law, and marketing. And I think that she's full of talent. And today, I'm pleased that she's going to really talk, and I'm sure she's going to talk about this from all perspectives, is how do you keep customers? It's the whole thing about customer retention. And I think all of us are going through that right now. What can we offer in our businesses that's going to really have businesses want to stay with the organization. So I'm going to leave it up to you now, Susan, to go ahead and provide us your insight and information.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you for that warm introduction. And I started out as a member of GroYourBiz actually, and went through that when it was first here in the UK. So it was a great experience for me as a startup founder to be in that room and have those peers with me. And it just felt natural to help it grow here in the UK. So thank you, Barbara, for being so supportive since, being from member level to now. So yeah, Barbara shared with you guys that my background and Ugenie at the moment is growing rapidly. And the biggest question we're always asked before I move on into customer retention. And the reason I think I also feel like I can do this talk is because we primarily focus on customer retention. We're not necessarily a marketing tool. It's not about, we don't help drive new members or new people into your product or service. It's about really valuing and holding on to the people that you have acquired or you've brought into your business as a customer. And the kind of saying where selling doesn't stop just because someone signed a contract or paid their invoice. We have to continuously sell to customers even after they have received a product or service from us. The selling just never stops. So I work with, as Barbara said, I've worked in small businesses, big businesses. I work with a lot of different communities and business types at Ugenie as well. And the one central theme and the one challenge for everyone is customer retention. So really having a strategy and a focus on how we keep our customers to stay sticky, that's what we call it in the tech world, is how do we get them to stick to our brand, is a really important thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys so you can see my slides. And I'm happy to share these afterwards because as Barbara might tell you, I'm a fast talker. So sometimes I talk a little bit fast and I'll try to slow down. But in terms of, I think everyone at this point, 6 weeks in is probably familiar with Zoom and Zoom Ticket. And, I'm more than happy to answer any questions or any specific challenges. If you want to drop them into the chat box, I'll address them at the end. I won't be checking them throughout the webinar, but I'll definitely address them at the end. You've already got the introductions, so we're going to jump into what I'd like to cover today. So first, why is it important to cover customer retention? Now, I know we all know it, but I'm going to show you some stats and facts as to why it's really important to focus on that strategy in your business. Ways in which we can retain our customers. And this isn't just COVID, although some of the things I'm going to throw in today are about the current circumstances. But customer retention is important regardless of whether we're in lockdown or not. And then also some ideas, again, of what other businesses I'm seeing are doing to help them get through this crisis. And I think businesses are in one of two camps, and this is from startup to high level, is that you either have the money and the budget to survive this, and you are able to be more lenient in terms of invoicing and what you're charging customers, or you're not. So I'll try to address things for both sides of the coin, but I won't be able to do probably justice to both sides equally in 40 minutes, but we'll see what we can do. So in terms of why should we focus on customer retention, and 6 to 7 is a bit conservative. Some of the statistics and studies that I've seen is actually go up to 15 times more expensive to acquire a new customer into our business today. And the probability of actually selling to an existing customer is 60–70% more. So it's more likely, much more likely to keep a big customer in our business and either sell them the same thing again or upgrade or a different product or service than it is to a new prospect. And I mean, let's think about ourselves as consumers, right? Today we are inundated with data and information from social media, from email, from TV. Advertising and information is coming at us in 1,000 different ways. And this has not been helped with COVID. In fact, it's been made worse, right? So there's pros and cons of the digital revolution that's happened in the last 6 weeks. But it takes us a lot of time and effort to convert a lead into a customer. And no matter what product or service we have, those steps are the same, right? So before we jump into customer retention, just a minute or two on the lead in the funnel. But if you've got, let's say, a follower on social media, they might be following you. They might not even actually be following your brand yet. They might just kind of have you in their awareness. Then they might kind of follow you. Then it's going to take several probably things of value that they need to see in their newsfeed at the right time that you've posted for them to want to maybe download something or come to a webinar. And at that point, they're still exploring the value that you might be able to deliver. You then might be able to convert them into a newsletter subscription. So there's this long journey that we're taking before most customers today sign, because there's so much competition out there. And to establish that know, like, or trust, and then also deliver on brand promises, all those barriers to selling have been removed when you have a customer that's in the business. And so it seems natural, right? That we know we are more likely to hold on to our customers than to get new ones. I mean, the other thing that's really important to take a look at, in addition to repurchasing from you, customer loyalty can result in further customer acquisition through referrals and recommendations. And no matter what, referrals and recommendations is still one of the strongest ways of getting new customers into our businesses, especially as small business owners, as service providers. People are relying on that word of mouth recommendation and referral and feedback in making their choices. Again, let me take an example of accounting. I go to Google and I search local London accountant. There's going to be 100 or 200 or 300 of them. I don't know if the testimonials are the right ones, because am I really going to put the negative testimonials on my website? I don't know, what the company has done to get that ranking. Whereas if I put into one of my communities that, hey, I'm looking for an accountant, someone can say, oh, I've used this person, they're fantastic. And so I have that human recommendation behind. Despite the fact that Google's giving me all these choices, I'm probably going to go with the one where someone has given me that recommendation. And if you ask yourself that, our consumers and our potential customers are making these choices in the same way. Well, because of COVID, and so, there's a lot of positives that come out of it. It's made us more digital. It's given us access to more markets. It's getting us to look at the world in a different way in terms of some of our businesses. But at the same time, customer expectations are at an all-time high. There's a lot of competition. And so we do need to find a way for us to kind of come through that noise and stick. So I've structured today in 10 tips. And so we're going to look at each of those 10 tips. But before we jump into that, yes, we're all going online, but I think the top tip here is keeping it human, right? And making sure that we are connecting in either with video right now, or picking up the phone, or in some sort of human way. But also, instead of just selling at our customers right now, we need to find out what's going on with them. What are their challenges? And I mean, Barbara and the chairs have been amazing across GroYourBiz, checking with members, finding out how they're doing with their businesses, what are their personal challenges, what are their business challenges, and really being there for them during this time. That kind of relationship building is invaluable. And ultimately, your customers will feel that trust and that brand affinity and want to stay. And even if they can't pay right now, when the ability to pay is there, they'll come back, right? They will remember how they felt more than what happened. And we have that saying with anything that we do. We always remember how someone makes us feel rather than what they said or they did. So if we can leave that positive feeling in any of the tips that we talk about today about how we treated people during this time, our brand will have a better legacy and feeling after we come out of it. And as with all things, this too will end. We will come out of it. And some of the businesses that survived the 2008 crisis are the strongest and biggest market leaders there are today, because they were forced to be innovative. They were forced to survive during a lean time, what made their business stronger. So the first tip that we're going to talk about is measuring the lifetime value of your customer. Now, this might sound a bit technical, and it might sound like it's not necessarily a retention tool, but it is. It is, because as soon as I show you tip 2, you'll understand why I'm talking about that. The customer lifetime value is a really key, important indicator, because it allows you to understand what a customer is worth to your business. And the reason I think that's super important is that it's going to make you understand whether your cost of acquisition of that customer is less than how much you're making from them. So let's say it cost me £100 of Facebook advertising to bring a new customer into Ugenie. But then I'm spending £500, £600, £700 on them through support and maintenance. That I'm actually paying that customer to be on my platform. Now, to a certain extent, as a startup, we all do that. And we want that early adopter feedback, and we want those recommendations and referrals. But at scale, I can't do that. I cannot have customers that are costing me money in my business. Otherwise, at some stage, I just won't be able to maintain the business. And so when we're doing that, to measure that lifetime value, tip 2 is identifying our high value customers. Now, I know in every business it's different, and we're looking at some businesses that we work with might have 10 or 20, they're coaches, and so they only have 10 or 20 customers, and that's good, that works for them, whereas others need to have hundreds and thousands of members to make their business model work. And I'm also not saying that it isn't important to give every single customer the best user experience and the best relationship. However, we will have certain clients in our customer base that are more valuable. that are just from an objective monetary point of view. And you do need to go above and beyond for them. So whether that's a bit controversial, again, disclaimer, every customer deserves a good experience, but there might be different levels of service once you've identified who your high value customers are, right? One of the things that I'm going through at Ugenie as we grow is, we give a lot of support. We try to help with real world time on how to work with the technology, how to make it effective. But once we have 1,000 or 1 million communities using the platform, that can't happen as it is now. So how am I preparing to also maintain my customer experience at scale? And that's something that every business needs to take a look at. And right now could be a good time to do that in terms of systems. Tip 3, building a community of customers who are engaged and interact with your business. Now, we see this all across the board with Facebook groups, Slack channels, Ugenie communities. Brands are building customer communities, branded communities, so that they can create a participatory experience with the brands. So instead of you needing to be there all the time, what we're trying to achieve is a we experience, not an us and them. No, it's not, they're emailing me right now, they're selling at me right now. We are collectively a part of a community, and we're going through this experience together. Digital means that this can be, in terms of a technology point of view, free. You could set up something very, free on WhatsApp or Slack, etc. There's also paid solutions as well. But setting the infrastructure up isn't the costly part. So you could start using this to build relationships. And all of our customer relationships are built on trust. And so by using a customer community, you can definitely start to enhance that. These are some of the other benefits of having a customer community. And I can definitely answer any questions if anybody has specific questions for their context, but it reduced customer support costs. So 49% of businesses with an online community report cost savings of 10 to 25% annually. This is because people can ask questions inside the community, right? Somebody else may say, does anybody else know an accountant that I can use? And rather than, Barbara responding and saying, hey, I know this person, if somebody else also responds on her behalf, she's just been able to provide support. We can all do that in our communities, right? We're building a Ugenie leader community at the moment so that people can support each other. Boosted brand exposure and credibility, making it easier to sell without selling. Because again, people don't want to be sold to. They want to have, they want to have that experience without knowing that they're being sold to. But definitely customer communities can help you do that. 67% of businesses use their communities for insights on new products and services. So you have a pool of people who already know what you do, they trust you. And so when you want to get feedback on a new pilot or a new product or even a pricing plan, you can put it out to these people who can give you some really good, valuable feedback. If we put surveys and stuff into the market, we need that objective feedback, but it's really hard to get feedback from people if anyone's ever done a survey, right? They're not always that responsive, and you have to pull things out of them. But you're able to, in an active customer community, get that feedback quite effectively. And so it's also a good place to be asking right now in those communities, what are you going through? How can we support you? What do you need from us? So that we can be adaptive to what this current circumstance is. Heightened engagement and better customer retention. So a channel, again, where you can produce even your existing products and services before an official launch. So the second two are a little bit related. But the benefits of having a branded customer community are growing and growing, and a lot of big brands are using community to bring their customers together. So it's something that we can learn from the likes of Starbucks to Nike to small brands, coaching communities that use communities to keep their customers connected. Tip 4, so using planning and automation to re-engage your customers. And so a lot of this does sound time intensive, of course, right? If we're going to sit there and call each and every person and double check, see how they're doing, I do think it's important to put in that human time. But the follow-up or some of the support and the resources that you're giving can be automated. It doesn't necessarily need to be you sitting there every day emailing. And this can be done in a CRM, but it can also be done if you're a Google user, for example. I have installed a Google widget, which is a scheduler. So I will schedule a follow-up email after I've done an email with someone so that I know that they're going to get that response. Now, that automation is going to help you achieve and give more value without necessarily having to give quite a lot of your time. And ultimately, the customer will feel engaged, like they're getting a touch point. Because one of the tips we're going to talk about later on is keeping our customers informed of what's going on with us as a business as well. So that they're not, the number one reason that a lot of people don't complain before they leave, they just leave. And so at that point, it's too late for us to catch them most of the time. It's very hard to bring someone back. Because most of the time, if it's something that they need, they've made a decision already to go someplace else and probably have another brand or product in mind. And so bringing them back from that is more difficult than trying to catch them before they go. And so this is just in terms of planning, I wanted to share, this is an Excel spreadsheet. So, sometimes when I do the talk or I do different webinars, people are also fearful of technology, right? Because they don't know how to use systems and CRMs and, automation can sound daunting. But a content plan can be a simple Excel spreadsheet where you're saying on Mondays, I'm doing this, on Tuesdays, I'm doing this. It could be done in a different order where it's a calendar and you know what things are going out and you just give yourself a checklist. So it can be as simple as those types of tools or all the way up to, really robust CRMs, which at the moment, for example, I've got my Eventbrite connected through a technology called Zapier to my CRM. And every time someone signs up on Eventbrite, their information is sent to our CRM with the tag on what webinar they attended, which allows me then to send them a follow-up email on a very relevant subject. So I'm not blanket marketing to them, but I'm sending them stuff that's relevant to them, which is also really important, and we'll talk about. So tip 5, respond to people quickly, but within your limits. And this one I'm gonna add a little personal anecdote because we live in such a fast digital world where most people expect responses instantaneously. I mean, I think this is why WhatsApp has taken off in such a big way. I get lots of WhatsApps that could be emails because I think people think that if they WhatsApp me, I will respond immediately rather than in an email that might take a bit of time to process. So I think it's very important to respond very quickly and, but without over-promising. And so the best thing to set up is an out of office with if you don't have an out of office, I will get back to you tomorrow morning at 9, or I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I still don't have an out of office, and I should. So that I'm giving people kind of managing their expectation. They're getting that touch point for me to say, yeah, I hear you, but I'll come back to you. Now, what I've done, I think, with Ugenie is respond very quickly over the last couple of years. And now that I'm trying to put in some limitations on the time that I'm working, it's almost like the reverse. People are saying, Susan, why is it taking you so long to respond? But I've built up that expectation, and it's not necessarily a very healthy thing for me right now as personally, but also long term. Once again, we have lots and lots of queries coming through. We need to start looking at those systems and processes of how we can give good, timely responses to our customers in an automated way. So in terms of if we look at the data and the most important elements of an ideal customer experience, 47% of them say that, in this particular study, that fast response to inquiries and complaints is the thing that they're looking at in terms of good customer experience. Then they've got simple purchasing processes, ability to track orders in real time. And, this is not necessarily from a retention point of view, but that timeliness of response is something that we are all being measured against at the moment. And especially with existing customers, this becomes even more important, right? So if I have someone who, let's say, is struggling to log into Ugenie for one of my communities, and my team doesn't respond quickly and solve that challenge, that person's attention is gone. They might at some point later want to come back and try it again, but in that moment they're there and it should work for them. So there's also a kind of a side tip there to make sure that anything that we're launching in terms of tech or any of these systems, that we test them as much as we humanly can, so that when people are there in the moment, they can go ahead and make that purchase and go ahead and send us that query. So some of the things that I've seen people been doing right now, but that can be done outside of COVID as well, is offer surprises. Things people don't expect. As a member of GroYourBiz, you now have this additional opportunity to come to these webinars, right? We have additional value being given to us. And I know it depends on customer size, your cash flow, how many people you have. It might be that you're writing handwritten cards to people because that's the most economical way to send them a note right now to say, how are you doing? Yes, email is the most economical, but if you want to go a little bit above and give them a personalized touch, maybe writing out a card or doing an introduction for someone. So two people that connecting customers that you think could be, if you know them all. And again, I'm saying that as a caveat of if you actually know all of your customers, and that can be hard as they grow. But again, offering the surprises make them feel like they're part of something bigger, and it also works really well for employees in terms of employee retention. I read this interesting statistic: what motivates people to work harder and being appreciated, and you can show that in lots of different ways, of course. But having that kind of out of the blue surprise can definitely leave a positive thing in someone's, in how they feel about you. Again, what we see quite a lot happening across a lot of brands is, and I'm sure you guys have and you're probably doing, is training customers with educational emails and live webinars. And so what is the additional value that you can be providing them in a way that is showing them something else that they can be getting from you? So, some of the people I've been speaking about, Marjorie as a photographer, maybe showing people behind the scenes of planning a photography project or some of the things that you're doing and giving them a little bit of insight more into the world side of that we don't see normally. I've definitely seen chefs, opening up their kitchen and showing more of their prep and how they order food at scale and doing things that you wouldn't necessarily open up, but now are showing that value in an additional way. I will say, I'm saying the live webinars. April, I think engagement was sky high in a lot of the things that we were hosting collectively across our communities and other people I'm talking to. People are not attending the webinars in as big a way as they were, so don't be discouraged either. I think people are it's month 2 of lockdown, right? And we're a little bit teched out at the moment. So I wouldn't necessarily be discouraged if you're doing some of these things and people aren't coming. They will still appreciate the fact that you're doing them. And what I'm checking right now is what people are watching on replay. It's not the number of people that are showing up during my session, but how many people have engaged with something that I have sent on YouTube as a link or as a PDF, a value add PDF. And on that note, sending things in a variety of different formats, because not everything works for everyone. Some people might need to listen to something in the background while they're doing some housework or doing homeschooling, whereas somebody else might want a tip sheet of 10 tips in a PDF that they can absorb very quickly. So we also have to look at who our customers are and how they want to be engaged in order to be able to provide some of this training and these resources. And newsletters are still a great way to grow and maintain relationships, even when people are not making purchasing decisions, right? So, you might have ex-customers who are still looking at your emails, they're still engaging, they're still there, they haven't unsubscribed, and at some stage they'll be ready to buy, and as long as you're offering them value at the moment in some way. So, if anyone is not using newsletters or using email to kind of build up that customer, keeping that connection, it is really important. And we do this here at Ugenie despite the fact that we've built an online community platform. So tip 8, customers enjoy businesses who know them and keep them informed. And I think this is something like, once you have your customer base, you need to start to understand how you can give them super relevant information, really targeted information. The one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in marketing, and it doesn't work in customer retention. People need to feel that they are getting the relevant information based on what they wanted from you. And I don't think that matters whether you have 10 customers or 1 million. You have to have the systems in place that make people get the right stuff from you. So, somebody's come to Ugenie webinar based on customer engagement, and then I send them an investment, resource. They're not a startup, most likely, so they're going to unsubscribe from my newsletter. They're going to actually want to disconnect from me because I'm sending them something that's irrelevant to them. And so we do need to be very careful in types of what are we sending across to our people so that they feel that we know who they are and that we're listening. And keeping customers updated and informed. So I mentioned it earlier. Many times customers don't complain. Instead, they take the action to switch to another brand or company. And they'll tell other people that they're not happy with your product or service, but they won't come and complain to you, and they've already made the decision to switch. So, we need to make sure that we are staying in touch and informed with them, giving them opportunities to stay in touch with us as well, and also give us critiques and criticisms so that we can stop that. Now, one of the things I would love to do with our tech is trying to look at patterns of behavior so that we could try to catch people before they go. But at the moment, it's still difficult to kind of measure when that might be. Collaborate with brands to offer packages of value. And I've seen this happen quite a lot across a lot of the communities that I'm working with, in that they don't have the budgets to go out and buy a surprise or offer something extra, or even maybe continue their current product in a free capacity. Like if your entire business is how you're dependent and that's how you pay the mortgage, it's not going to work for you to just continue to give away free stuff. And so what I've seen brands doing, especially in the startup land, is if there's a food one comes to mind, which is the easiest one to understand. So there was a chocolate and a tea company, and they were both had some disruptions in their distribution and their supply. So they've come together to offer a package together that would be something that could be appealing. They've combined their marketing budgets. They've combined, and also what they've done is they're sending their own customers the other product. So they've done a supply switch where some people are getting chocolate and some people are getting tea. And so the customer is still getting something else from them and getting additional value of a product that is complementary, but isn't costing the business anything, because they do have supply. They just don't have additional money to buy more things. So if you can collaborate with other brands and other people as well to offer value, I think what the Grow Your Biz webinar, I'm just going to use us a lot, because the webinar series is fantastic, but Barbara is bringing on all this additional expertise and offering this additional value to make sure that we all get through this really tricky time. So collaboration, I think, is a really strong way to help, especially if they're complementary products for things that your customers want. And before we go into, I wanted to leave time for questions. So be kind, and I think this isn't necessarily, super relevant to customer retention. I think it's more of the COVID point, is we need to be really kind to ourselves. And, I can share some data at the moment. A lot of people are experiencing quite a lot of decrease in sales at the moment. People are leaving, even people that don't want to leave are leaving just because they can't afford their memberships or the subscriptions or, an additional something that they might be buying from you. It's not that they don't want it, they just can't afford it, right? Because a lot of people's livelihood is completely stopped at the moment. So I think it's being kind to yourself that there's also maybe only so much you can do at the moment. And maybe this is a time to take a look at some of the stuff I was talking about to help you get ready for when we go back to the real world or back to normality, right? So if you don't have a CRM, it's time. I mean, take that one thing away today, that you need to have a CRM. And it can be simple. HubSpot is free. There are a lot of free platforms out there that can serve as that solution for you. But it's very difficult to manage and support your customer base if you don't know who they are. And without having some sort of CRM, it is difficult to do that. And I did it for a long time in an Excel spreadsheet. I would have the name of the person I've met. So I had one for marketing and one for customers. And it was name, email, how I met them, my last touch point. This was before I introduced our own CRM. But with the CRM that we've bought in now, it's allowing me to do a lot more support. It's allowing me to send resources in a different way, but also measure what people are looking at. And so if we look at the analytics of the types of things that people are doing, if we go back to customer communities or our CRMs, that and taking into the feedback and how people hate giving feedback because it's just another thing for them to do. If you can take a look at your customer behavior in the ways that they're currently interacting with you, you can make a couple of assumptions on how you can serve them, right? Without them having to do anything. Unfortunately, we live in a world where I think people are, lazy is the only word I can think of right now, but there's another word for it that's not so negative. We want to be spoon-fed. We want some things to happen very quickly. We don't necessarily always want to work for it. So yes, it's our job as brands to try to make that as easy as possible. But if you can get some of that data with a CRM or a platform like Ugenie, you can then look at what people are looking at, right? If everyone's engaging with the sales webinars, then maybe we don't need one on automation because nobody cares. So, it also helps us put our time and resources in the right place so that we can create things of value that better serve the people we're trying to serve. With that, I'll just open it up to questions. I hope that was not too fast and not too much. But if anybody has any specific questions on any of those, any specific challenges that you're going through, happy to open the floor up to you guys at the moment.
Any questions from Sabrina, Marjorie? I have some comments, but I'll wait for the questions to come from the floor. Marjorie, it looked like you were going to ask something. Oh, Tasneem, great for you, Tasneem.
No, I don't really have a question, but I did want to say that, I really want to get the Aurora board onto Ugenie, and I think there's a hesitation. I'm not sure why. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come on here, because I wanted to learn more about what you did. So I think after our next meeting, I may get them to listen to this presentation. I think there's a lot of valuable information. I mean, I could just do it all for them and then I would look like a star, but.
Well, you know what, Marjorie, don't hesitate doing that. In other words, is it Patricia Muir? No, which one are you in? No, you're with Susie.
Susie, yes.
Susie is a strong believer in the Ugenie. So I would say the two of you just take some time within a meeting, because all the things that Susan said with respect to reach out and find out who's doing a certain product and service. I am actually, you know, I hired somebody from Australia to do, I'm paying for her services. In other words, you could reach out to anyone in the world, right? Every one of the members has something great to offer, whether it's a product or a service. And that's the whole purpose of a global connection. It's just beyond your local community. And what do I say? You know, local communities provide global impact, local solutions for global impact. And I think that's really important.
And I think that's one of the things, and one of the tips I didn't include because there could be 50 tips on customer retention. Yeah. One of the other ones is trying to do things that our competitors are not doing. And that's becoming harder and harder, actually, right? It's becoming harder and harder to find a USP and something that our competitors are not doing. But at the moment, I don't know of any other global women's network like this that has the capacity to make these types of connections. I mean, I'm certainly, and I look for them all the time. That's the nature of what I do. So we've got it. We've got the people. We've got the right people in the network. We just need to connect them better. And you know, I know that, and you know, I am so fortunate that Barbara has been working with us since the beginning. I think maybe Marjorie, maybe the barrier is that not everyone likes apps, and they want to be on the web, and maybe they're either don't have space on their phone or they just can't be bothered. But ultimately, what we need to understand, right? Forget Ugenie. Let's just say it was some other platform. We want everyone to feel like they're missing out by not being in our community. It doesn't matter where it's hosted, right? We have all these amazing women that you could potentially connect with. And if you're not taking the time to go and connect with them, then what do we need to do then as a brand to demonstrate that value to them? How do we need to demonstrate this so that people are running and knocking down the door to get into this community? Because that's what we want, right? We want people to want to be there. And that's the only way it's sustainable as well, because you know, the leadership can only do so much.
So Marjorie, maybe one suggestion, and I just thought of this just now, is that at your next virtual board meeting, there will be someone who will talk about their challenge. Maybe ask them, can we put that challenge out on Ugenie to see what other people in the world and in Grow Your Biz members, how they would respond, and say, please respond by such and such a date. If you have a tip on this legal issue or this, you know, or show a picture of their product and say, how much would you pay for this product, right? I mean, it could be anything like that. Just something simple, but it's getting the action. I have something to offer, because in the 90s, in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, I did a similar presentation. And let me just share some of the stats, because it was your tip number 4 and 5. And it was about reasons for resolving customer complaints satisfactorily. Did you know that it's 5 times more expensive to attract a new customer than to keep an old one, and takes 9 times more effort? 75% of customers will do business with you again if their problem is handled in a positive way. 95% will do business with you again if their problem is handled on the spot. Then there's that whole area about pamper your regulars, which you talked about, but in a different way. How do you reactivate old accounts? And then the reasons people left was, in this case, 3% moved away, 4% developed new relationships, 9% left you because of price, 14% because of product or technical quality, but 68% was because of poor service. So, I mean, those are really, you know, and then the other part is 98% of customers who are dissatisfied with service don't complain. 99% of them will not return, but each one of them will tell a minimum of 9 other people about their experience. And that's what we want to prevent. So it is really important, that whole thing about get a CRM, keep in touch, measure what people are looking for. It just I mean, this is like 30 years ago, but it still applies today.
Yeah, and
The whole
the
thing
thing
about
is,
high tech and human touch, right? Sorry,
and
Tasneem, go ahead.
no, it's it's funny because I've got the same statistics on those because obviously been
Yeah.
training for a long time. But the interesting thing is now we've got the web. So
Yes.
instead of they tell 9 people,
They tell thousands.
everybody, thousands. So
Thousands.
literally, the one your most people will talk about bad stuff
Yes,
than
exactly.
good stuff, and it's not worth it.
No.
It's not worth
And
it.
I'm going to start a campaign against.
Sorry, I put the camera off because my eyes are tired. I haven't washed my hair.
Oh, you look fabulous. But I'm going to start a campaign with somebody who was very out of San Francisco, and it was one of those sign up now for $1 subscription. And I did because I thought, okay, I want to hear what they have to say. So I gave them a credit for $1, like the Times New York did. This just happened last week, and I'm furious about it. And all of a sudden I get my credit card back, and they've charged me $434 US. And I went, what is this about? They said, well, you only had 6 days to reply that you didn't want this anymore, to cancel. That's illegal in Canada.
Yeah. Wow.
I had 6 days. Well, I was busy with, the care home and all kinds of things. And I got a $434 that I'm disputing. And I thought the only way I could really dispute it, because they've said, no, you signed the contract, you saw it. It said 6 days to cancel. And I went, really, huh? So I'm going to do some bad publicity on them. And I want all your help to say, yeah.
I mean,
How
that's-
angry.
Yeah. There's a whole, I think, webinar maybe, Barbara, someone can do, or I can do, about how to deal with bad press as well. So we need to, as businesses, also know how to, I mean, I would have just said, yes, no problem, refund, right? Because ultimately that one bad experience, I mean, I had tweet that's, I was well over the cancellation period, and they're like, yeah, no problem. They just sent the money back. And especially right now, especially right now.
And you should see the correspondent I did with him. I said, look, I didn't go into the, because it wasn't obvious. You had to click on something else to read the fine print that said 6 days. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, I'm in the wrong because I didn't cancel it in time, but I did it in 14 days. Like, I noticed it 14 days later, and I went, because I got my bill, and I went, what's this $434? From $1 to $434, and I can't get it back. They just
Well,
said,
yeah, a social media storm, and you might get it back, or at least at the
well, it's
Yeah,
called
I mean-
Trends, ladies. The company is called Trends, and they. I mean, it's just like I'm getting my Janice to help me with it today to dispute it, but it was like,
But Barbara, listen to my story.
yeah,
In January, this guy calls me, and I'm just trying to think of pivoting my business from a school services, saying to me that we are desperately looking for coaches like you to train the teachers, and we're paying $800 to £1,000 a day. Do you have 8 days spare in a month to do this? So I said, yes, I do have 8 days. He said, we need people just like you, and you're going to be exclusive. You're the only one we're going to recommend. And we've got these many schools in the southwest of London that we want you for. So it's school services anyway. So he said, look, you get your money back in a week because I've got 5 schools already looking for your services. So Muggins paid him on the credit card, and I did some research, and 24 hours later, I wrote to cancel it. He didn't give me my money back. I claimed with the credit card company, and they said, you have to go back to the company because you made a decision. I said, but it was false marketing.
that is, it was spam. Yeah,
But also in the
It's false
UK,
marketing. It's
there's
called school services.
the same in the UK. There's a 14-day cooling off period with any contract.
Yeah, well,
In
he
Canada.
didn't honor it, and he absolutely said no. My credit card company has not helped me, and the worst thing is that they wrote to me after a month saying that we will give you the money back guarantee after a year if you don't get any business, and can you sign this waiver? So I have been trying to call them 8 times now. It's a £600. but it's the principle of it. They're cheating. And then I called the, because it takes all that energy, right? So then I called the Citizens Advice Bureau here. And they said it was a B2B marketing. And you accepted that on the phone. But I said it was false marketing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I don't know what to do.
There's a lot going on right now because of, and Susan, you're probably aware of it, well, all of us, Brandy, I don't know who Ann Leonard is. I don't know who that is yet, but there's a lot of horrible things going on with shysters and spam artists. It's hit Grow Your Biz because of Bob Proctor, the 85-year-old who was fraudulent. His partner went to jail. I don't know. His partner went to jail in the 70s and 80s. And Grow Your Biz members are leaving because they want to be with Bob Proctor because he's a get-rich-quick scheme. It's the Anthony Robbins. And I just went, you know what? Let them go. Let them find out that and he starts off, he does a really good presentation, but you're going to get it in London because he's going all over the world now. He's revived his get-rich-quick scheme. And it's all about thoughts become things. And he's got this really scientific presentation. And it's a great presentation until you get to the very end. I had to see it to believe it because I was following the Grow Your Biz members to say, oh, we want to coach. Oh, Bob Proctor is amazing. So they're infiltrating Grow Your Biz because they set up these networks. And the whole idea is multi-level network. And Marjorie, did it come into your, yeah, you've got one now on your board. Did you know that?
We've got John Maxwell. I kind of think maybe he's the same.
He's the same. Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, Bob Proctor. And it's just amazing how this happens because people are taking advantage of this crisis. And so you have to be careful. You really have to be careful.
People, have you ever been to one of those seminars where they try to get 1,000 people into the room and a very charismatic speaker gets up onto the stage and says, you can be a public speaker too, and you can make 50,000 pounds, and I'm just like, not everybody who's running to the back of the room right now can do that. Oh my God, it's just so.
I know. And that's what happens in his presentation. It says, because he's good, he's powerful presenter, great PowerPoint presentation, etc. And then at the end, the last 10 minutes is, for this price, it starts off, you can have a session with me for this price. Then we can add this on. Then we can add this on. And they're all different. 947, 447, blah, blah, blah. At the end, it's the total package is $12,447. However, if you sign up in the next 30 minutes, you'll get it for all of it for $300. People are buying into it.
Yeah, they are.
It's the get rich quick.
Well, I need to take some of those lessons because I'm just giving everything away for free. I'm like, anyone can have a community, just take it. And then I give my time to help them make it work. So I need to.
No. So Brandy, you're in Kamloops. Any questions from you? What's the challenge you're facing? Tell the group about your business, Brandy. Is she off?
She's just muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe we can check in with Anne.
Anne, what about yourself?
Oh, hi. I'm a kitchen designer in St. Catharines, Ontario. And my challenge now is clients taking advantage of me. Yeah. So more so in
what way
they
then?
want us to do consults on site, and I'm not doing that. So they want us to proceed without, they think we're just going to proceed and start doing designs and drawings, but we haven't built it's difficult for me because there's a certain stage I like to get to with clients' comfort zones before I ask them to commit to almost like a retainer in a sense. So I'm trying to figure out ways to break that retainer down into smaller bites so that people have an opportunity to get to know us and feel comfortable with us without exuberant consult fees.
Your comment, Susan, and then I'll add some too. Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. Can you just explain to me what your kind of customer journey was like before COVID? So were you going into their home?
Oh, for sure. Well, we were focusing on in our showroom consultations. We were avoiding going to their home before we got an opportunity to talk and meet with them, understand what their scope of work was, give them an opportunity to control the sale, just at that particular stage. That was their only time. So that they could ask questions and understand that doing a great design doesn't mean executing it to getting a great product in their home. So it allowed us the opportunity to get into their heads a bit and put the value out. And we would then say to them after the consult, how do you feel about us working with you? We would be sometimes be able to give them a bit of a budget at that point. So I tried to hit all of the targets on what would allow the client an opportunity to make the decision to move forward. Then we would tell them, we would always right along the way explain to them that there would be a retainer required for us to do designs for them.
And how have you, then right now, are you doing those digitally? I mean, are you bringing in new leads?
Actually, I received 3 new leads last week alone, 2 on the weekend and 1 today. So we're all at the same stage of growing that trust.
Got it. And are you doing that digitally then? Are you kind of getting, are they zooming you around the kitchen and giving you a sense? So how have you adapted the model?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I am essentially now going right into the kitchen, and the focus is now the design, as opposed to why us, pick us, why pick us over the other 20 companies in a 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
So now I have to step it back a bit and teach them that the value is not necessarily in the design, although that's the end result, what they think it's getting there. It's understanding who to choose. Yeah.
So you're giving them the design after the consultation at the moment, right? And then what do they get to choose? No.
Only if they sign a retainer with us will we give them.
Just makes sense. Do you have a list of your most regular, profitable, and loyal customers from the past? Do you have a list of those?
Yep.
Do you have testimonials from them?
We do. I have testimonials from probably about 30 to 40 at the moment.
So if you, could you pick maybe your top 2 or 3 and see if they would be willing to share with the potential client their what they received from you, how you were, because that would be one of the things I would definitely do.
And I do that. I actually, once I started to put it together in a, I had that form already with me for 5 clients, because quite often customers will say to me, you don't need a bigger showroom, just have them come to my house. Just have them call me, in that sense. I've become very good friends with quite a few of our clients.
Right.
And over the years to teach me how to grow, what would be of interest to them might be of interest to a new client. And actually, we've been discussing it with Crystal to have some of these people do a video, take it to the next level, and have that video available right away in today's world,
Yeah, if you could put those on your website, I would say if whoever's comfortable to do the digital tour of their real world kitchen, and because it sounds like it's very intensive what you're doing with them, right? In terms of, and what you want to try to do is cut down the risk of doing the work without a client. So the more you can create that experience digitally for them to be able to explore on your website or wherever it is that you might want to share with them, so that they can take a look. And then have your hard line, I would say, of this is as far as we're going to go, and you can come back to us when you're ready, so that you don't feel taken advantage of, I guess. But I think digitizing as much as possible of this experience for them.
So do you think that, like right now, we require a $3,500 retainer? That's a big amount of money to ask somebody after an hour and they're not even in front of me. Like there's just not that grab of trust yet.
Yeah.
Do you think the opportunity of breaking that down is the route that I should take?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I'm going to do with a guy this afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
100%.
I would say to him, in order for us to proceed to do even preliminary sketches, we would require a $500 retainer.
Yes, because
we only do that. Doesn't mean you get them. You don't get the drawings. I would still do a Zoom call where I can control the screen. So I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about all of that end of it, not exposing, like people will say to me, well, what do I get for $500? Well, how about 35 years of experience in kitchen design? How about 22 awards? How about, you know, I'm not saying it as bold as that, but that's kind of top of mind to me. It's like, you know, dealing with a company that's been through a lot of these struggles, that you don't have to go, you don't want to be a client for Mike Holmes.
But you know what? So for that 500 pounds, I think will let them feel, and I would think validate your experience and all of that. And, you know, but it's de-risked it quite a lot, where you've said it's not, you know, when in our laser manufacturing business, I actually took over sales as well. And a lot of times I also just changed the number based on who I was talking to and their ability to pay, because ultimately what we want is nobody to walk out the door. And if this person, I know what my bottom line is. I know that I can't do it for any less than this, right? That's it. But below that, and at the moment also it's circumstantial in that, you know, if your bottom line is actually 250, like you just get them to sign to a certain extent, right? You want to get something in the door, because once they're committed, they're less likely to leave, I think, no matter what that price is. But yeah, I mean, get that bottom line and just get it in.
Okay.
And do you have a
break? Thank you.
Sorry, do you have a breakdown of like what I would like to get from somebody who comes in and offers me a quote on carpentry or whatever, redecorating? Sure. I want to know at the very beginning, do they pay 5%? This is what they'll get. Like, it's almost like a chart, a template. This is a breakdown of my costs, and it's very clear to them. This is what we expect up front. This is what you'll get. Next step, step 3, right, until completion. And then follow up after completion. And so that I would put in place. And also don't, you know, even the digitalization is great, but third-party marketing is going to be your best compliment to you and your 22 awards and everything you've done. So when the guy said to you, oh, just have them, don't do a showroom, just have them come to my kitchen. Third-party marketing is essential, especially during these times, and then get them involved in the beginning of a Zoom call. Right.
Okay. Now, when we signed the deal, it's very black and white. Everything is very clear what you receive. It's up to that point. It's like we were just talking about. What's important to one person isn't as important to the other person. So it all comes down to getting to know their personality. Yeah.
But you have to have the basic layout. It's like anything else, right? I mean, at the bottom in your mind, you could say, just like Susan said, maybe the 500 becomes 250 depending on the client. Like you don't want to lose a client, but you also want to know what your bottom line is. So, but the template shows all of your costs specifically, right? This is what we will charge for each step of the way. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step whatever it is. I mean, I just had a fence and stuff built, and I was very clear. What are we responsible for? What are you responsible for? How many hours do you think it'll take you to do this? And he was very clear. I was satisfied. We were both satisfied because I knew what I had to pay for.
Did he have that on the template? Yeah.
He did.
So I'll take my retain, what I write now?
Yes. I'm saying yours is a little bit different in the sense that it was kitchen design. Mine was building a painting.
Can I take my retainer and break it up maybe? Maybe I can maybe take the retainer I have right now. It's very specific, exactly what you get, and I'll break it into smaller bites.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And because I'm like you, Barbara, when people come to my house, I do that. Yeah.
Right, I know, but you got to do this. Go ahead, Susan.
I have a question for you as well. Have you put an hourly rate of what your time is worth? Is that factored in? Do they get to see that? Sorry.
I have a team of 5. There's 5 of us. Yeah. So for my time or for the company's time? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess whoever the consultant is, right? Okay. Yeah, I think there's a delay. Sorry.
Yeah. I know there seems to be a delay right now at my end too. When you're purchasing the kitchen, there's a lot of the.
I know, but I think what Susan is saying,
Sorry,
which is
go
what
ahead.
all of us don't, I think what Susan is asking, which is something that we all can learn from, if you got, heaven forbid, if you got sick and had to go into the hospital, what would you have to pay for somebody to take over your role? Like, there is a bottom line, right? We never think about that. We never think about in order for me to keep my business going, who would take over for me and what would I have to pay that person? You know, like when we make products, when we make whatever it is, offer our services, what is our hourly rate? I think that's what Susan is asking, is what is your time worth?
Okay.
Isn't that what you're saying, Susan? The bottom line is your time worth?
Yeah, and I think in terms of what you were saying,
for consultation.
the delays. So, because what you mentioned, Anne, was that you have a team as well, and maybe one of the ways to also kind of lean out the work is if you have a junior associate that you can, put on the project or the quote as well, so that people can see the difference and maybe have someone that can get that first consultation with the junior. It's just more of a FOMO thing, right? If you want to work with me, I am worth this much. But if you would like to work with one of our junior associates, then there's this pricing. So maybe offering them that level of if you've got that. But if it's just you, then you have to factor in that if you're going to spend 3 hours with someone, how much of that you're willing to invest, but how much of that is bottom line for you. Sorry, I think the delay is not making it an experience at the moment.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was working with an interior designer.
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Sorry, you just said something about interior.
Yeah, so the question stemmed from an interior designer I was working with who had not worked out her hourly rate, and once she eventually packaged her product, she was working for the client because it was too low because she hadn't factored in all of the different steps of what she was doing and her own time into the equation.
Right.
And so there's that. Yeah, it was, but it's an interesting time, and I think the third part that your existing clients giving recommendations and referrals, but I'm going to say one final thing. Unfortunately, I will have to go, but are you on Instagram? Are you looking? I mean, the other way of bringing in more people who are willing to pay is to bring in more leads in general, right? So getting yourself out there and creating a larger lead funnel.
Okay. Yeah, we're actually part of House. We're recognized on House, as well as our Facebook and Instagram. Yep.
I love, we'll just end here.
Yeah, this is
last comment.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies.
When you ask the question, it's consulting and that's chargeable. Thanks, Marjorie. We totally agree. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, everyone, for participating. And Tasneem, good to see your face again. And enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.